Hello, and welcome to another quickfire interview for our upcoming event, Impact Operational Excellence Summit. Joining me this morning is Rob Allen, who is CEO of Aligned Outcomes. Rob, a very warm welcome to you this morning.
Thank you, Charlie. Great to be here.
Thanks so much for joining us. So we're here today to talk about digital twins, essentially when you sort of pair up this bit of software with today's companies and their main challenges. But you talked about this in great detail at our in-person event at Twickenham. So for those watching and would like to have a bit of a recap or perhaps even a quick summary from you, it'd be great if you could just summarize a little bit about what those successful business transformation projects look like.
Well, thank you very much, Charlie. Yes, so as I said at Twickenham, the digital twin is something that is now quite a popular phrase, and it's being applied to companies, it's being applied to software, it's being applied to design. And where it came from was, companies like Boeing and aerospace firms designing jet engines back in the 80s, and they figured out how to mobilize and make more virtual and high data intensified CAD/CAM models and gave them full motion so that they could actually design and test jet engines before they even touched the metal on the factory floor. And so what we've done at Aligned Outcomes, and other firms are doing this in different ways, is we took this concept of the digital twin and asked ourselves, what if you could apply this concept of putting a virtual model of an enterprise on the screen and doing the same thing, that iterative testing and iterative design that was done back in the 80s with jet engines. And we've been very successful over the last 10 years with some very major corporations around the world, where we've actually proven that you can build a live virtual model of a division, a department, a large enterprise, a small company. And by the digital twin, I'm referring to the ability to put together disparate amounts of data that come into play when you're trying to transform or improve or repair a business. So our digital twin and others that are out there in the market take advantage of putting together all the process data, the people data, the technology data, the governance data, and the service catalog data that exists within a company. And I asked the question of senior executives, what if you had a model that had all of that data, and our algorithm allows you to put all that data in a single model and move it around, getting process data to talk to people data to technology data, and all of this is costed at the same time. Right. So, the easiest example is if you let's say you bought your competitor's company and you're looking at merging it into your business. Well, what we would do is we would build a current state of both operations. As I said, all of that data, people, technology, process, et cetera. Yeah. And you'd have these up on the screen together, and you would start to say, well, let's move this department here, and let's move this group of people because they're very affected over in this division and put them here. And let's test the cost model. Now let's look at layering in the technology. How does that work? How does the technology advance the processes? And you have the ability to iterate an infinite number of times to get the business model right before you actually change anybody's job.
Amazing.
And we've proven, last point is we've proven over the last 10 years that we can get these projects done, massive transformations. We can get these projects done in 2/3 the time for half the budget when you compare other ways of doing it with outside consultants or any other way. So it's quite exciting. We're having a lot of fun with it.
Amazing. It just goes to show that, I guess, that it's almost like creating these virtual companies and layering up these different aspects of it. And I think that's a really great way of summarizing it. Yeah. I remember with your presentation back at Twickenham, you mentioned a lot about how some companies that have done well with this particular bit of tech with regards to sort of business transformation have focused a lot on teams and sort of, I guess, empowerment and subject matter experts as well, and getting them really sort of engrossed in the project and sort of quite hands-on. Can you explain in a bit more detail about sort of the benefits of doing that, I guess?
Yes, well, Charlie, this is really the secret sauce behind digital twins. And, often, and I come from 30 years in the tech industry, and, the tech is really cool. And often when I talk to customers, they want to talk about the technology. Mm-hmm. The secret weapon of this thing is that to make the digital twin as effective as it can be, What you have to do is you have to bring around the technology your top subject matter experts, the people that are doing the work every day, the people know where the problems are, the people that know what the best ideas are for improving the business. And the digital twin affords them the opportunity to actually get on the screen and put their imprint, their ideas into the virtual model. This does a couple of things. Number one is it's very fast and very cost effective, because rather than spending all of your transformation time looking at best practices from competitors and other companies that may or may not fit, you might have a square peg in a round hole problem. You're working with the people that actually know where the bodies are buried, as I like to say. Yeah. and so the data inside your digital twin is actually more evidence-based and precise than if you had the data pulled in some other way. Now, by the way, we also pull data into our digital twins from systems and hooking up application flow rates and process mining. That's also ways of bringing in the data. But the key secret is getting your people to help build the digital twin. The second thing this creates is buy-in. We call these subject matter experts after the first meeting when they're working with the digital twin. After that first meeting, they become what we call enthusiastic target adopters. These are people that maybe for the first time in their career have been asked to, hey, could you come in and tell us how this really works here at the company? And what are some of the problems? And by the way, we always, through these short burst 60-minute interviews, always ask them to spend some time on what are their fresh ideas that might make the operation better. Yeah. And we found that even with small organizations, after we build the current state, the team of subject matter experts generally creates between 100 and 140 innovative ideas on how to improve the business. And with the power of the digital twin, you can quickly test these ideas to see if they have a positive impact. Yeah. Then when you come back with the design of the future state, your organization looks at that model and says, wow, I had a hand in that. That was my idea there. So they're looking forward to helping the leadership team make the transformation happen. Absolutely. And just a quick collaborative quote is that Dr. Behnam Tabrizi, who's a famous professor at Stanford University, after studying transformation for 30 years, wrote an article this spring, and he said, typically transformation projects fail 70% of the time. Wow. And he validated John Cotter from Harvard. He validated John Cotter's estimate on that number. And in North America, where I'm from, companies spend $73 billion a year on transformation services at a 70% failure rate. Yeah. What Dr. Tabrizi found over 20 years of study is that companies that involve their people in the transformation can completely avoid that failure rate. Yeah. That's what we found with our customers is using the twin in this collaborative way creates this forward momentum in your transformation, which is very powerful.
Definitely. And it sort of reinforces that fact, I think, of it being sort of a two-way street and having the insights of the people, boots on the ground, they're the ones that do it. I'm conscious of time. So my sort of last question to you, Rob, would be, especially within this topic that we just talked about here in terms of team-enabled transformation, I think that's a nice way of summarizing it. With some of your case studies and customers, for example, why do you think it's so important that we hone in on that particular aspect of transformation, especially in the times that we live in today?
Well, that's a great question, Charlie. Let me tell you, I ask our customers and people that I talk to in industry all over the world, but what is the number one concern that senior executives have right now post-pandemic? Yeah. And no matter what country I'm talking in, the answer is always the same. I've got to attract my team back to work. I want to figure out how to implement a hybrid model. I know here in the UK, you've been talking about the 4-day work week. People have come back from COVID and said, I want a more balanced life. There's also, a top priority of young employees in large companies now around equity, diversity, and inclusion. So the human element of work is now front and center in the minds of executives. Yeah. And my question to them is, imagine a world where you are trying to adapt your company to the changing market dynamics in this high-paced world we're in. Imagine if you did the implementation by bringing these people that are questioning their work, questioning their role, questioning their hours per week. What if you brought them around a project leveraging the digital twin and you turned them into enthusiastic target adopters?
Yeah.
All of a sudden they're keen. And by the way, with a current customer right now, where we went from helping them when they were virtual to now helping them in person.
Yeah.
Getting, the people involved in the project are coming into work every day, early, staying late. They're working hard on this project because they feel they're being heard and they're feeling that they're making a contribution to the future of that business. And so this is why at this time, I think we're into something here that can really help executives remobilize their workforce as they try to design what their company needs to look like in this crazy world that we live in.
Yeah, absolutely. And that really goes in and focuses on the empowerment piece, right? It's that really giving them oxygen to go into this and explain exactly what they'd like to change and how they can do it, and really gives them that empowerment piece. I think it's so important.
Yeah, yeah.
Rob, sadly, we're out of time, but it's been a real pleasure chatting with you today. Thanks so much for joining us, both in person and virtually. For those watching at home, if you have any questions or queries, please pop them in the chat function below, and we'll be able to get back to you as soon as possible. So, Rob, thanks so much for joining us again.
Thank you, Charlie. Really appreciate your time.